Good afternoon, algebra. Today you're going to practice dividing polynomials once again. I wanted to do a little quick lesson with you before you do dividing polynomials for the second day. So hopefully the sub passed out the note sheet to you, and we're going to go through this together. So the first thing on your note sheets, it says simplify. And this is not factoring at all, it's not dividing all, it's simplify. So on number 1, you have a monomial times a binomial. So this is just a This is just a refresher for you that you need to distribute. So on number 1, this would be 12x plus 20. That is a binomial. They are not like terms, so that is done. On number 2, you have a monomial times a binomial times a binomial. Now you have a few choices here. The first thing you can do is distribute the 2, and you get a new binomial, 2x plus 12. And your second binomial is x minus 3. Remember, when you're multiplying a binomial times a binomial, you have to use FOIL. So when you do FOIL, you're going to get 2x squared. Remember, because x times x is x squared. On the outside, negative 6x. On the inside, positive 12x. And your last term is negative 36. You cannot stop there, though, because you have 2 like terms in the middle. So your final answer is 2x squared plus 6x minus 36. Okay, so this is refreshers. And then you have one here on the right. This has a little 2 here. Remember that 2 means that you write 2 binomials that are exactly the same. When you have a binomial times a binomial, you're once again going to use FOIL. So when you do FOIL on this last one, you get x squared plus 8x plus 8x plus 64. Middle terms are alike. Final answer, x squared plus 16x plus 64. So these first 3, we're just practicing of multiplying. Now as we go down here, this says factor. So we want to factor these 2. So remember, when you factor, the first thing is a GCF. On number 4, there's no GCF. Then you check if it's a binomial or a trinomial. This first one is a binomial. Then you check for subtraction, which it is. And then you check to see if you have perfect squares, which you do. So this factors x and x, 1's plus, 1's minus. The square root of 49 is 7 and 7. And this is your final answer. When we go to number 5, first thing, is there a GCF? There is. So we're going to divide out a GCF of 3. That means you should have a trinomial inside your parentheses. 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. 3x divided by 3 is x. And 60 divided by 3 is 20. Remember, you don't stop there because you have to see if your trinomial factors. So you have x and x. Your last term is negative, so 1's positive, 1's negative. Now you need 2 factors of 20 that you can add and subtract to get a 1, a negative 1, which is 5 times 4. The 5 has to be negative, the 4 is positive. And that's practice of factoring. So we come down to this new one here, number 6. And number 6 is the one I want you to mainly focus on today because you didn't do anything like this on your homework last night. A simplified ratio is a simplified fraction. A simplified fraction. And it says area of the square to perimeter of the square. So when you do your simplified fraction, you're going to have the area in the numerator. You're going to have the perimeter in the denominator. Simplified fraction is a simplified ratio. Area of the square to perimeter. So when we look at this square, we know that all 4 sides are congruent. I'm going to start by finding the area. You all should know area is length times width. The length and width is 3x minus 6 times 3x minus 6. So that's a binomial times a binomial, which is going to give us 9x squared minus 18x minus 18x plus 36. Because recall, you're doing first, outside, inside, last. You add your like terms. You get 9x squared minus 36x plus 36. This is your answer for area. Next, you want to find the perimeter. So perimeter, we're going to add up all the sides. Another way other than adding up all the sides is taking 4 times a side. That's another way of doing 3x minus 6 plus 3x minus 6 plus 3x minus 6 plus 3x minus 6. So when you multiply that, let me move this down here a second. You get 12x minus 24. And that is your perimeter. So the first step in this problem is you must know the correct area and the correct perimeter. So now here's where it comes into play what you all learned yesterday. You're going to write a fraction. In the numerator, you're going to put the area. 9x squared minus 36x plus 36. In the denominator, you're going to put your perimeter. 12x minus 24. Yesterday, you took a division problem and you had to simplify it. The first step was to factor it. So we're going to take the numerator and we're going to factor it. 9x squared minus 36x plus 36. I'm going to factor the area. There's a GCF. It is 9. When I divide that out, I get x squared minus 4x plus 4. I have a trinomial. I don't stop there. I have to keep factoring. 9. X and x. The last term is positive. The middle term is negative. That means there's minus and minus. 2 numbers that multiply to get 4 that you can add to get a negative 4 are 2 and 2. This is the simplified factored form for the numerator, which is your area. So I'm going to put 9x minus 2, x minus 2. I'm running out of room on here, so I'm going to draw an arrow way up here because we have to factor 12x minus 24. That is your perimeter. So when we factor 12x minus 24, there's a GCF of 12. I should have a binomial in here. That is x minus 2. That is your perimeter factor, which goes down here. Now, yesterday we talked about excluded values. You do not have to give me any excluded values, but the last thing you're going to do is simplify this fraction. So when I look at this fraction, there are whole numbers here, 9 and 12, and I can simplify that to 3 over 4. You also have a common factor of x minus 2 and x minus 2 that divides out and gives you 1. But there's one factor of x minus 2 left on the top. So the final answer is 3x minus 2 over 4. Now that's a long problem there, and there were a lot of processes. So make sure when you try your homework tonight, you follow this process to complete it. Now there are 3 last problems here at the bottom. It says simplify the expression, name any excluded values. Step 1 is always to factor. On number 7, you can't factor, so that one's already factored. Step 2 is your excluded value. Your denominator is a monomial. And I taught you yesterday that all monomials have an excluded value of 0. Next, you simplify 32 and 6. They both divide out by 2, so that's 16 over 3. And x cubed is on the bottom because when you divide out your x's, that's what you get. Number 8, you have to factor the top. The top factors with a GCF. The GCF is 3, x plus 2. The denominator is already factored, so you don't have to do anything to the denominator. So I'm going to just write it again. Your excluded values are the values of the denominator that makes it 0. So for the 6x, you have an excluded value of 0. X plus 2, your excluded value is negative 2. Last, you simplify this. Let me see if I can move this down some more. When you simplify it, your 3 and 6, that turns into 1 over 2. Your monomial x has to stay, and your x plus 2 and your x plus 2 divide out. So here are your 2 answers. And I'm running low on time on my video time, so I have to do this last one quickly. The numerator says x squared minus 8x plus 12, so you have to factor the top. X and x. The middle term is negative, so these both have to be negative. The factors of 12 is 6 and 2. The denominator, 14. The last term is negative. This has to be plus and minus. You have to have positive 7 minus 2. Your excluded values, x cannot equal negative 7 and x cannot equal 2. And I'm sorry this is going fast here at the end. You could always ask the sub to rewind and play this again. These x minus 2's divide out, so the final answer is x minus 6 over x plus 7. Hope that made sense. I know we taught this yesterday. You were taught this yesterday. I wanted to do a quick review with you. We will do this again on Monday. Best of luck. Try your best on the homework that you are given for tonight. You'll work independently for a while, and then the sub should give you some time to compare with each other. I will see you Monday, hopefully. Have a good weekend.